This student goes online to search for the easiest way to die. However, he finds an ad for a high-class taxi service with the slogan, "Don't die, take revenge. We will help you." The boy bursts into tears. He picks up the phone to contact the high-end taxi service. However, thinking that it is just a joke, he stops again. The next day, the boy struggles to go to school on one leg since the other is broken. However, when he sees the 3 bullies in the class who often bully him in school, he cannot dare to enter the classroom anymore. Instead, he turns around and leaves. When he goes to his mother's fish shop, he sees his mother working. She is both mute and deaf, and is struggling to invite customers to buy fish with her advertisement board. This scene makes the boy feel even sadder, and he no longer knew who to turn to. He decides to call the taxi service he has just found last night. The person who picks up this phone call is Sung Chul, the director of the taxi service. He immediately assigns this task to the driver. The taxi driver drives the taxi to meet the customer boy. Upon reaching, he presses the button to open the car door so the boy can get into the cab. While sitting in the taxi, the boy asks the driver where they are going. The driver immediately tells him that they are going to take revenge. Then, the boy begins narrating his tearful story to this driver. His name is Park Young-min, and he transferred to a new school a few months earlier. During break time, 3 classmates intentionally approach him, making sarcastic remarks about the persistent fishy smell around him. Responding calmly, Young-min explains that the smell was because his mother ran a fish shop. Following that incident, Young-min becomes the continual target of senseless torment from the trio. Seeking help, he approaches his new teacher. However, instead of support, he receives advice to befriend his bullies. Adding insult to injury, the teacher criticizes the fishy smell on Young-min's clothes. As Young-min leaves the encounter, he is seized by the 3 bullies, who issue threats. They force him into joining them at a karaoke spot. There, they subject him to a brutal beating, strip him of his clothes, and steal all his money. On one occasion, when Young-min has nothing to offer, the boys shove him onto the road. As he falls on the road, a guy in the group runs his bike over Young-min's leg to make it look like an accident. They did that to get compensation from insurance the next day. This time, Young-min decides to fight back. He reports the incident to the police. However, instead of solving the case, the police officer only assigns the responsibility to the school violence committee. He then tells Young-min to go home and wait for the committee to take action. Young-min returns home only to see the bullies having dinner with his mother. They have arrived to give Young-min a warning. They even threaten to stab his mother, leaving him with no other option but to stay silent. When the principal inquires about Young-min's injury in the committee meeting, he hesitates. He claims he tripped while playing, concealing the truth out of fear of the bullies. Despite his attempt to shield himself from reality, his mother senses something amiss and encourages him to speak up. However, Young-min remains tight-lipped. After the bullies apologize for playing recklessly, the principal advises Young-min against taking the matter beyond the school premises. Returning to the present, the driver hands Young-min an envelope before dropping him off at a game station. Inside, he discovers instructions detailing the game number. As Young-min starts playing, a fairy within the game explains the rules. While the company works on his request, the taxi meter keeps running. He'll settle the fare once the task is completed. Depending on the circumstances, additional charges might apply. Lastly, Young-min is requested not to disclose the taxi game to anyone else. Unable to choose what he should do, Young-min decides to leave the place. However, rethinking how the bullies mistreated him, he presses the yes button and gives his consent to take revenge. In the underground basement, the taxi service team listens to his story. Sung Chul remarks that it might not be a big case for them, but for Young-min, it is a matter of life or death. The team member, Je-Hoon, begins her research and learns about one of the bullies, Sun Tae. His father donates money to the school, allowing him to do whatever he wants. The photographs of the bullies are printed out, after which Sung Chul briefs his team on the project. Though the perpetrators are all minor, it doesn't make their crimes any lighter, so they must carry out the task like any other. The taxi driver, Do-gi, activates his meter and heads to a restaurant, initiating the next phase of the operation. There, he intentionally grabs someone else's food and mixes something in it. The food turns out to be that of Young-min's teacher. Do-gi apologizes and gives him back his platter. The teacher falls ill because of the mixture, allowing Do-gi to apply to the same school as a substitute teacher. Grateful for the timely help, the principal welcomes Do-gi and assigns him to teach math, a subject he's not confident in. Upon introduction to the class, Do-gi starts the routine by taking attendance. As predicted, Sung-tae disrupts the class, leading with a casual remark about the pleasant weather outside. After the class, two other bullies, Hyung-sik and Hak-soo, throw empty cans at Do-gi and ask him for a favor. One of them asks Do-gi if he has a cigarette, to which Do-gi responds how a student can ask his teacher such a question. Sung-tae intervenes and begins ridiculing Do-gi, saying he is just a part-time worker, not their teacher. To teach Do-gi a lesson, he slaps his friend and then starts shouting that the new teacher has hit him. Acting along, Do-gi tries to calm them down. However, Sung-tae's behavior worsens, and he grabs Do-gi's wallet and steals his money. With the money, the trio flees from the area, leaving Do-gi frustrated. Sharing his experience with Go-eun, Do-gi expresses feeling mugged. However, Go-eun playfully mocks him, highlighting that his own students mugged him. Later that day, Sung-tae orders Hak-soo to get some goodies as he plans to impress some girls. Following orders, Hak-soo approaches an elderly woman, offering money in exchange for a favor. As minors, they're unable to purchase cigarettes, so they exploit the older woman's assistance. However, instead of fulfilling their promise of payment, Hak-soo hands over his leftover ramen soup and swiftly departs. The trio heads to a club to spend time with their girlfriends. Sung-tae pulls out the stolen cigarettes, reveling in the moment. Go-eun observes their activities through a hidden camera pan installed by Do-gi. Curious, Go-eun questions how they can enjoy with ill-gotten money. Do-gi explains the gradual descent of seemingly ordinary teenage boys into a darker path. While the trio enjoys their time, men in black suits approach them. The leader engages with Sung-tae, who hands over a sum of cash. It is revealed that these boys are more than just bullies. The next day, the friends are smoking cigarettes in the bathroom and bullying another of their classmates. While they are threatening him for money, Do-gi appears from the toilet room. He pretends to have some work with the student. When Sung-tae refuses to let the student go, Do-gi reminds him that he is their teacher and they must obey him. Despite Sung-tae's reluctance, Do-gi manages to take the student with him. At Sung-tae's house, the team plans to teach Do-gi a lesson. Sung-tae has an idea. The next day, the friends approach the older man to buy cigarettes. Fortunately, the older man has a stash specifically for students who can't legally purchase them. After obtaining the cigarettes, Hak-soo approaches Do-gi, claiming that someone's parents are waiting for him in the library. As Do-gi leaves, Hak-soo covertly inserts explicit content into Do-gi's bag while keeping a watchful eye on the surroundings. Meanwhile, Sung-tae threatens a girl to trap Do-gi. When she refuses to do that to a teacher, Sung-tae grabs her from her hair and warns her of the consequences of her disobedience. A few moments later, Do-gi enters the library and begins finding the parents. However, he couldn't find anyone. Meanwhile, the girl removes her sweater and leaves the library, acting like a victim. Shouting at the top of her lungs, she draws everyone's attention. When the female teacher asks what has happened to her, the girl accuses Do-gi of having her nude photographs in his bag. Sung-tae is standing there laughing as he sees his plan working. The female teacher takes the girl with her, seeing Do-gi as the culprit. On the other hand, the principal receives a call from an unknown number and learns about the incident. He is shocked and infuriated to hear this. While the female teacher is taking the girl to inspect Do-gi's bag, she insults Do-gi. She says she will ensure Do-gi won't get to teach again. On his way to the teacher's room, Do-gi winks at Sung-tae, adding to the complexity of the situation. Everyone is called to the classroom, where the principal rebukes Do-gi for letting something wrong happen during his supervision. When asked where is Sung-tae's seat, Do-gi points it out. Infuriated, the principal dashes towards Sung-tae's seat and begins unloading his bag. Inside, he finds the dirty magazines and pictures of the girl. Now, Sung-tae is portrayed as the culprit. The female teacher asks the girl what happened in the library, to which the girl responds that there was a bug in her clothes. As the teacher bursts out in rage at the girl, we see Do-gi smiling at Sung-tae. A flashback shows how the magazine ended up in Sung-tae's bag. It turns out that when Hak-soo came up to Do-gi to call him in the library, something happened beyond Hak-soo's imagination. His actions were being recorded by the camera pen Do-gi had left on his desk. As he was putting magazine, he was being watched by Go-eun. She took matters into her own hands and entered the school wearing a uniform. Pretending to be a student, she went to the teacher's room and stole the magazine from Do-gi's bag. After carefully putting that magazine in Sung-tae's bag, she called the principal and informed him about the pictures. As the truth comes out, the female teacher apologizes to Do-gi, who now fake cries to gather her sympathies. After getting rebuked by the teacher and the principal, Sung-tae held his friend responsible for the incident. He accuses his friend of deliberately making a fool out of him. As he starts beating the boy, Hak-soo steps in and instructs him to calm down. However, Sung-tae gets infuriated and holds Hak-soo by the neck, warning him not to intervene in his matters. As the trio leaves the school, they witness 2 police officers finding the bag of cigarettes and arresting the older man. It turns out that the old man was selling marijuana. When questioned by the police about the sale of cigarettes, the old man identifies the bullies as the buyers. Before the police could catch them, they managed to flee from the scene. The old man is arrested, and to avoid the same fate, the boys dig the ground and bury the cigarettes there. The next day, Sung-tae addresses the class and threatens them, saying if anyone talks to the teacher, he will kill them. The class starts, and Dogi says good morning to everyone, but nobody answers him. Seeing Sung-tae is playing games, Dogi requests him not to do that in the classroom. However, Sung-tae keeps provoking Dogi, even frustrating him so he can show violence. Hak-soo keeps recording in order to catch the perfect moment when Dogi's rage gets out of control. It will help them get rid of Dogi easily. Realizing Sung-tae's game, Dogi announces that they won't study today but will be watching some videos. To everyone's shock, Dogi plays the video of the 3 bullies burying marijuana on the mountain. As the trio is shocked to see the video, Dogi turns off the TV, saying it was a mistake. After the school ends, the bullies ask Dogi about the video. Dogi responds that he went to the mountain to capture the beautiful view and found them burying the cigarette, so he videotaped them. The boys keep explaining that they don't smoke weed. Dogi keeps playing along and assures them he won't reveal their secret to anyone. Later, the bullies head to the mountain and begin digging the ground, but they cannot find weed anywhere. At that moment, Sung-tae receives a call from Dogi, who reveals that he handed the weed to the police. He asserts his responsibility as a citizen, yet Dogi reassures Sung-tae that he didn't disclose any information regarding him. As Dogi persistently taunts Sung-tae with a mix of sweetness and underlying negativity, Sung-tae finds himself feeling helpless in the face of the situation. The next day, Dogi continues to irritate Sung-tae, demanding that he bring food for him. When Sung-tae declines, Dogi uses the previous weed incident as leverage, threatening to expose him if he doesn't comply. Fearing the consequences, Sung-tae reluctantly does whatever Dogi asks. To add to Sung-tae's frustration, Dogi even instructs him to keep the change for himself, further fueling his anger. The trio searches on the internet and finds that having weed is illegal, and they can end up in jail for 5 years. Scared to spend their lives in prison, Sung-tae calls Dogi and gives him death threats. As the trio returns home, they are shocked to see Dogi playing games with Sung-tae's father. Sung-tae is scared about getting exposed in front of his father. Later, Dogi enters Sung-tae's room and makes himself comfortable on the bed. He then asks the trio for money, 1.5 million each. If they tell anyone about it, Dogi threatens to inform the cops about the weed possession. Sung-tae agrees to fulfill his demand, but he puts a condition: he will decide date and time. After Dogi leaves, Sung-tae calls someone for help. In the afternoon, Dogi finds Young Min and encourages him to return to school starting next week. He's worried that skipping might become a habit that's hard to break. As a gesture of care, Dogi offers Young Min some food. Afterwards, Young Min assists his mother in closing up their shop. When asked about the food, Young Min discloses that his homeroom teacher was a generous giver. On their journey home, Young Min's mother affectionately holds his hand, expressing her unwavering love for her son. The following day, Dogi arrives at the school's rooftop and discovers a swarm of men dressed in black suits taking over the area. As he proceeds to get the money, Gohan asks if they should set it up, to which Dogi says yes. A clash erupts between Dogi and the men. With agility, Dogi evades each assailant, targeting their leader directly. Witnessing their leader under attack, the men retaliate. However, they prove no match for Dogi's combat skills. While Dogi is engrossed in combat, Sung-tae attempts a sneak attack from behind. However, when Dogi senses the impending attack, Sung-tae freezes, unable to make a move. Dogi continues to showcase his extraordinary prowess, swiftly neutralizing every thug in his path. When a thug tries to attack him with a flower pot, Dogi swiftly leaps, shattering the pot in midair. The trio stands stunned by Dogi's unforeseen abilities. After clearing the area of the men, Dogi shifts his focus to Sung-tae. As Dogi proceeds towards him, Sung-tae takes a step back. However, soon there is no place for him to move back. Dogi tells him that he cannot gather the courage to jump, but still, he pushes the people and hurts them. With that said, Do-gi kicks him, sending Sung-tae off the rooftop. As he focuses his attention on the other boys, they begin apologizing, begging Do-gi to spare their lives. Because of the fear, they even pee their pants. When Do-gi brings up Young-min's name, the duo was stunned. The next thing we know, they surrender themselves to the police, telling the officer how they bullied their friends. They urge the officer to lock them up as they don't want to end up like Sung-tae. It seems like Do-gi has taught them a good lesson, and they won't threaten, bully or beat anyone ever again. Later, Do-gi enters a bakery shop where he has kept someone. That someone is none other than Sung-tae. It turns out that when Go-eun asks Do-gi to set something up, she was talking about the giant inflatable bed. After he said yes, two of the team members, Kyung-gu and Jin-ian, inflated the bed. When Seung-tae fell, he landed straight on the bed. Because of the fear, he went unconscious. Do-gi contacts the gangster Sung-tae, whom he encountered on the rooftop, and lets him have a conversation with Sung-tae. Instead of assistance, the man issues a warning, advising Sung-tae not to contact him again and to listen to his teacher. Sung-tae's shock deepens upon hearing Young-min's name. Do-gi informs him that everything he eats is on Young-min, but anything he can't finish, he'll have to pay for. Furthermore, each pastry will cost him an amount equal to compensating Young-min for all the physical and emotional harm he caused. Sung-tae apologizes, saying that he doesn't have any money. This is when Do-gi reveals that he has found a job for him. By working there, Sung-tae can quickly settle his debts. Then, Do-gi warns Sung-tae that if he tries to escape, he'll catch him and make him cough up 10 times more. Confused about his situation, Sung-tae receives advice from Do-gi